For a series mostly composed of ovals, NASCAR's had its fair share of super strange tracks. You could even make an argument for some tracks on the schedule today. Tracks like Pocono, the Charlotte Roval, Bristol Dirt, and even the Chicago Street Course are pretty strange when you take a step back and look at them. But today, we are going to dive into NASCAR's past and take a look at some of NASCAR's weirdest tracks in its history, and you probably haven't heard of some of them. Anyway, before we get into the video, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe as we are on our way to 75,000 subscribers. Let's get right into the video. First on the list, we have Flemington Speedway. It was appropriately located in Flemington, New Jersey, and started off as a fairgrounds horse track in 1848. The venue transitioned into a half-mile dirt oval in 1911, where it began hosting motorcycle races. 4 years later in 1915, the first cars hit the track. It was a tradition of the fairgrounds for decades, but in 1955, stock cars began racing at the venue when lights were put up. The track received a major upgrade in 1966, which is when the track found its true identity. The track was reconfigured into a 5/8 mile rectangular shaped track, appropriately nicknamed the Square. Locals claimed it was the fastest 5/8 of a mile track of its time. The track was paved in 1990, which was a huge success. In 1991, the track became a regular on the Will modified schedule. The modified Race of Champions was hosted at the track from 1992 to 1995. Then, in 1995, the NASCAR Truck Series began racing at the track, which would last for 4 years. Ron Hornaday Jr. won the first race at the track by just over a tenth of a second over Rick Corelli.
I can't believe that. No point racing here, folks. Or last chance. And you saw the 6 truck try the bottom. They made a little contact. Here comes Skinner. Checkered flag. Ron Hornaday to win it sideways. Whoa!
Mike Skinner won the second race, and then Ron Hornaday won again. In the fourth and final race at the track in 1998, Stacy Compton wrecked out of the lead after leading the first 166 laps. Terry Cook won the race by just over a second, the largest margin of victory at the track. ARCA came to the raceway in 1999 for a one-off race, which was won by Frank Kimmel. Despite what seemed to be a major success on the outside, the track was constantly losing money. By 2000, the track had lost all of its premier touring series and would close just 2 years later in 2002. The track was demolished in 2005 after being sold to developers. Unfortunately, the large investment in the track was just unsustainable, especially after losing its national attention. Jeff Stearns described the track as the most magical, unforgettable, exciting, compelling, filthy, dangerous, loud, and eternally mobbed weekly racing track he'd ever seen. It also had some controversy with wrecks, but this escalated in 1991 shortly after it was paved. Ray Evernham had a massive wreck. He damaged his brainstem, which left depth perception impairment, effectively ending his racing career. As a result, officials put foam blocks in the corners to soften the impact of crashes. Louisville Motor Speedway has a short but interesting history as well. It opened in 1988 as a paved 3/8 mile oval, but just 5 years later was reconfigured into a short tri-oval track. It only lasted 8 years as a tri-oval before closing in 2001. This was because of the opening of Kentucky Speedway. During its time, it ran a variety of series, including weekly sportsman, street stock, late model sedans, mini truck, and figure 8 races. Notably, the track ran 2 Busch Series races in 1988 and 89 as the oval, and 5 Truck Series races between 95 and 99 as the tri-oval. As a tri-oval, the track was a wreckfest. It averaged 12 cautions per race in the Truck Series, and every race spent about a third of the laps under caution. Mike Skinner won the first race at the track, and the next 2 were won by Ron Hornaday. Then it was Tony Raines and Jay Sauter who found victory lane. The track also hosted 3 ARCA races between 1994 and 1996, and 7 NASCAR Southeast Series races between 1995 and 2001. The oddly shaped tri-oval only added to its reputation of being a wreckfest, as both series averaged about 10 cautions per race. In the only ASA National Tour race, there were 20 cautions. I mean, I know a lot of short tracks were filled with cautions at this time, but this was extreme. Lakewood Speedway opened in 1917 just south of Atlanta, Georgia. The oddly shaped oval had 4 corners that varied in banking, shape, and size. The obvious thing that makes this track strange is the lake in the middle of the track. The track was a huge success, with the first motorcycle race attracting 23,000 fans. In the 40s and 50s, the track hosted a few USAC races on the 4th of July, which local fans quickly proclaimed the racetrack the Indianapolis of the South. NASCAR ran 11 Grand National races at the track, with the final year, 1959, especially notable. In the last race at the track in the series, Richard Petty came across the finish line to win his first NASCAR Grand National race. However, Lee Petty, his father and car owner, finished second and protested the win. After scorekeepers recounted the scorecards, the result of the race was overturned and Lee got the win. NASCAR's convertible division had 2 races at the track, with legends Joe Weatherly and Fireball Roberts finding victory lane. NASCAR's Open Wheel League, the Speedway division, also hosted a race at the track. Lakewood holds the record of being tied for the 4th most fatalities in IndyCar. In the first race at the track, 2 drivers, George Robson and George Beringer, lost their lives in a 4-car wreck with just 2 laps to go in the race. Art Bish lost his life after he hit the guardrail on July 4th, 1958. This was the last USAC race at the track. After Atlanta Motor Speedway opened in 1960, NASCAR started running there, leaving Lakewood in the rearview mirror. Although the track lasted about 2 more decades before it closed in 1979, this was the last major touring series that raced at the track, and it lost its national appeal. Shortly after, the track was demolished, and in 2008, it was reported that the grandstands were still standing, but may have been torn down since. Now, this last one is probably going to have an entire video on it one day, so I'm just going to hit the high points and try not to keep on talking about it. The Daytona Beach Road Course hosted 10 Cup races between 1949 and 1958 and was the site of NASCAR's second official Cup race. Red Byron went on to win the first race at the track and NASCAR's first championship. The track was the premier event of the series for a few years until the opening of Darlington Speedway in 1950. Tim Flock, in my opinion, was the king of this track. He won back-to-back races in 1955 and 56, and a convertible race at the track in 57. He won in the largest field at the beach in 1956, where a staggering 76 cars took the green flag. Only 3 cars finished on the lead lap. In just a 37-lap event, Flock just whipped the competition. He was the only driver to win at the track in both series. Marshall Teague won at the track twice, a driver who won 7 races in just 23 starts and took part in the Indy 500. Since the race was also part of the F1 Championship at the time, he is also credited with a couple F1 starts. Unfortunately, the driver passed away while attempting to break the Daytona International Speedway track speed record in 1958. The Daytona Beach Road Course just really grew out of its own shoes. Massive crowds of almost 40,000 were gathering, and Bill France Sr. knew it needed to have a permanent circuit. The beaches were getting crowded as well because of rapid growth in the area, so it made the race harder to put on logistically every year as well. Given its name, you would think the track was a proper road course, but it really wasn't. It had 4 turns and 2 straights, just like a traditional oval. But it wasn't like any other oval. For starters, it took place on an actual beach, and the 2 straights were 2 miles long, each followed by a sharp left-hand turn. The speeds were unparalleled in the first couple years of the series. The scenes of this racetrack are just unlike any other on the planet, just truly amazing.